A very good Wednesday morning to you, and welcome to the Fixed Wing Guide channel with me, Stuart Lomas. I hope I find you quite well. Back indoors today, not because the weather is particularly bad. It's actually quite a nice day here in Manchester, just indoors. Because actually very bad night last night. Feel quite dishevelled, look quite dishevelled, but bear with me if you would. A slight departure today, a little bit, a political slant to this particular rant. I've had an idea. And that idea is that I have now finally kind of classified myself as far as my political leanings are concerned. So does this mean I have an allegiance to a particular party? No. Does this mean that I'm going to start voting? Oh no, absolutely not. So what exactly does it mean? Well, over the years, no doubt very much like yourselves, no matter whether you vote and no matter on what side of the political mid you fall on, you will find, inevitably, that occasionally you will agree with certain policies made by the side of the political midline who you don't support under normal circumstances. You think that's actually quite a good idea. Because obviously your particular bias, either left or right, will not always meet your needs. So this is where I am, guys. I feel that a new political movement could be something called the right-wing Socialist Party. Now, I know that sounds like a paradox, but bear with me on this. And this is, I'm kind of speaking for myself here. I view myself as being a number of things. I'm actually quite a complex kind of character. I know that in the past, and a lot of you have actually brought this to me in comments, that I am a very black and white character, and that kind of fits into my new political ideology, which means that where I'm coming from is, let me take the socialist side of my right-wing socialist classification, which means that, in effect, anyone and everyone who needs some form of help, support, guidance, advice, or information should receive said things from the state. Free, gratis, and for nothing, with the sole aim that their life is made that little bit better for them. So, let's say, for instance, that somebody is living on the street right now here in Britain. I'm not too sure, obviously, what it's like in the US or Australia or anywhere else you're watching this particular nonsense. It is quite hard for people to get off the streets. Even if it's just for one night, there are very, very few hostel beds. There are far too few that are actually required. And it's obviously very, very difficult for people living on the street to gain any form of state benefit. Why? Because they don't have an address. Of course they don't. They live on the street. So the route I would take would allow them to perhaps have help, advice, information and guidance to allow them to have a state-registered PO box, for instance, which would act as a proxy address where they could apply for help and benefits, housing applications and so on and so forth until they found a permanent or semi-permanent address from where they could live and operate their lives to get a more permanent address. But people who needed help and assistance with their health, it's very, very hard, even though we have the NHS here in Britain, sometimes to get the help and advice that you might need and the support that you might need if you feel that there is something wrong with you that you're not getting the attention for. And that is for a number of reasons. One, that a lot of people maybe can't articulate their issues, and I'll come on to that one in a minute, and that doctors are massively overworked. There are not enough GPs in Britain to actually deal with what are the indigenous population or the settled immigrant population already, and yet we are taking more and more people into the country. So GPs are massively overworked and have no space in their practices. So going back a little step to anybody who can't explain what is wrong with them, and this doesn't matter whether it's a health problem or a lack of money problem or a lack of accommodation problem, I would instigate a complete advocacy service where people who were literate, educated, and able to put over a good case would stand for the person who needed help and put their case forward to anybody who required information to allow the person who was in hardship to get the help that they require. So that kind of shines a little bit of a light on my socialist side of things. In a nutshell, those who need help will get it. The right-wing side of my right-wing socialist believings is very simple, and this falls quite nicely within my black and white remit. And I know I've had comments saying that I make people feel a little bit uneasy about being grey with me being very black and white. The right-wing stuff is that wrongs against society. Now that can be anything. It can be people who are misleading the authorities who are here illegally, let's say, for instance, earning money under the counter, shall we say. People who are not paying taxes. Now let me think. Google, Amazon, Starbucks, people like that. People who commit crime against the person or against the state. Let's take that one first. Crime is a very polarizing thing. There are a lot of people out there who will believe that there are always extenuating circumstances where criminals committing crime, the reason they commit that crime. And a lot of criminals are, for want of a better phrase, let off with the crime, or let off with a less harsh sentence because their lawyer has put forward a sub-story to say that they had a bad childhood or neglectful parents or have a mental disorder for which there is no proof, and they will get away with the aforementioned less sentencing, etc. My feeling would be that biblical justice should come into play, good Old Testament justice, where basically it is an eye for an eye. And they will be treated with the same disregard and disrespect as that person showed to the person or to the state, and their punishment will be rendered accordingly. As far as the tax evaders and avoiders are concerned, I appreciate with that one it's a very, very thin line. But, you know, evasion is legal. It is the job of the company's accountants to find legal loopholes to enable them to evade tax. But quite a lot of it is so shaded, this area, that they can avoid tax, which is not legal at all. So for me, what would happen there? They would be tracked down. They would be prosecuted accordingly. All back taxes would be claimed, which could be, in the case of some of the larger companies, of course, multi-millions of pounds, which would, of course, help our current debt crisis here in the UK, and all future taxation would be at the current rate of corporate taxation. So what I'm talking about here is a system where I guess those who don't need help and who ensure that they gain everything they can from the systems that are operational here in the UK, either by illegal or immoral means, will pay their dues to the country. I feel there's a lot of the population in Britain who feel the same way, that many people get away with too much far too often, and they see that certain people are protected by certain governments. They are looked upon with some form of benefit by keeping friendships with high-powered people in the system, and they get away with murder. But people that really suffer at the end of the line are the populace, the general populace, you and I, the lower class, the low middle class, and the middle class people who either work very hard for a living or are now unable to work due to their companies being closed down, or they are unable to work because of serious disabilities or illnesses which stop them from doing so. And those are the people who, in my opinion, don't get the help they deserve. So the socialist side of my beliefs now will be fairly and squarely on the shoulders of those people to ensure that they get the help that they deserve, and if they're not able to get the help using their own skill set, and quite a lot of people do not have a skill set, they will get that from the state. So the question here is this a valid qualification for a political movement, do you think? Do you think that the right-wing Socialist Party has traction? Do you think that there is already a version of this? Do you believe that the current government, for instance, here in the UK, or your current Obama legislation in America is that kind of balanced system? Do you believe that if you don't have an education and you don't have the ability to fight your own corner, basically that's just tough luck and you really just have to deal with whatever life throws your way? Let me know what you think about this. I think it's quite it's a good definition of me as a person. I am very black and white. I know what I feel is just. I feel that I'm a very moral person, and I do believe in politics these days is that it does lack morality, which is shameful, really, because you grow up through your life, and I do believe that within that growing up, it is a universal knowledge what is right and what is wrong. And people in power do not ask themselves often enough, would they like a member of their family to be treated the way that certain members of society are being treated on a daily basis? And maybe they don't do that because they, being of the upper echelon in society, never have the need of help and compassion from the rest of society. So let me know. I think it's quite an interesting one, this, and I'm sure that I will get a lot of comments from both sides of the political divide. I do think my classification of myself is actually quite an honest one. I do feel my classification of myself is actually quite an accurate one. So let me know whether you think this, something like this, should this become let's say in an ideal world, this becomes a party, and the party sort of his manifesto is based around this kind of thing. Let me know whether you think this has traction, whether you think it's a realistic thing. Let me know whether you feel it's an actuality, the way that we as people around the world, forget what countries you're in to a certain extent, I do believe that we're all fairly moral as a race. And that deep down we all know what's right or wrong, but maybe that belief of what's right and wrong disappears or gets clouded by how successful you are in life, perhaps, and maybe maybe some of us do take on board, it's the all about me mentality. As long as I'm all right, doesn't matter about anybody else. Let me know what you think. I shall look forward to your comments. So that's me, guys. I think I am a right-wing socialist. What do we reckon? Questions, queries, suggestions for this kind of nonsense, down below as always. Thank you very much for my couple of new subscribers that have arrived in the last couple of days. I think I've sent you my welcome notes. If I haven't, drop me a line, reprimand me, and I will send one out. I do apologise. I'm glad that all of you seem to enjoy the different setting yesterday, being out in the sunshine, and I will do more in the glorious, no doubt, autumn days that are in front of us to come. So all being well, we'll have a few more outdoor things. So that's it for this one, guys. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye.